the next stage, which comprises maybe 30% of adults now, and is what our culture actually sort of presents as the adult, the self-authoring person who knows they're in charge of their own being. They have goals, they have a sense of time is now really there, more so than the expert who can sort of look at himself but doesn't usually do it. Self-reflection is possible but not common at the expert level. So it's something we often teach experts, a little bit more self-reflection. The achiever can do that because they now really have a sense of linear time. They're not just, sometimes I'm this way and people react to me generally like this. With traditional values, the achiever can look at many years into the past and many years forward. And the general drift is forward looking, always having goals, always trying to achieve something, always wanting to make the world a better place. The energy is on the outside. And beautiful energy. And when you think of just how much we've gained from, it's in Piagetian terms, it's formal operations, which is really the definition to a degree of the traditional scientific mind. The mottos of the achiever are also the ones that have brought the world to where it is, both in a good sense of all the technology and achievements we have, the multimedia shows we can do, this kind of technology, and the dark sides of technology that has far outstripped our capacity, our moral and inner capacity to actually deal with it. We have created these things that are unmanageable by now. Just thinking of nuclear waste, I'm sure you will talk more about this throughout the week, the kinds of things that are now global problems that when they first created, it was all positive, all wonderful. Isn't it exciting we can do this? And even now there is this conflict between the scientists and the scientific mind who just wants to explore regardless of the consequences, and those who say, no, we can't do that for moral reasons, and those who say we shouldn't do this because of the potential unpredictable outcomes further down the road. We just don't have that right to make these experiments because we don't know how they're going to turn out. Different kinds of responses to that mind. It's the person who, because they have clear boundaries for themselves and they know who they are, their traits, they can describe themselves. If you ask an achiever what type you are, they can go in quite a bit of detail and how that works out for them in life. Where was I? They have clear boundaries, yes. So what they can do is they can do agreements with others by saying, I'm this way, you're this way, we agree to differ, that kind of thing. And that's actually a strength, because you can now operate, it doesn't have to be the truth, it doesn't have to be you for now. For this task, we get together and we solve the problem. And you can have a completely different outlook, if you will. It doesn't matter. We just agree to disagree. And we work with that. And then we band together for this task. And then we disband and reorganize ourselves to solve another problem. What does the achiever not have yet? Well, let's look at this, maybe that will help. But there's still the positive side of the achiever. What's this? Yes, but what do you recognize this? It says right what it is. Who's not had in their lifetime had to deal with this in one way, chemistry class or other? It's the periodic table. What did it look like 20, 30 years ago? A lot of blanks, yes. So what did this table make possible? The good side of scientific. Extrapolation, prediction, truth, order, and control. And the possibility to, there's still some empty spaces there, so we're absolutely sure, as far as we can ever be sure, that these elements exist. They may exist in such a split second, or I don't even have nanosecond way, but we can almost be sure they will be detected at some point. We just have the right instruments. Just not yet is one of the mottos that the chief scientist has. We will find out, just not yet. Now, what's different here? What do you see? A woman, a skull, two women, a woman in the mirror. Hey, you guys, don't you have eyes in your heads? Can't we agree what this is? Skull, yeah? Who is in favor of a skull? Who sees the skull very clearly? Excellent. Who sees the woman looking into a mirror? Excellent. So which one is it? That's yes, and both. And that points out something that the achiever and the traditional scientific mind does not yet acknowledge, namely the observer, the powerful role of the observer. What you actually see there is something your mind sees. And part of the miracle of interpretation and of seeing things in reality is part of what human beings do. That's part of their map making. They always look for patterns and then quickly distill from that something that is real for them, something they can orient themselves by, something they can tell a story about. And I understand ego development simply, in the simplest way, an ongoing story of how we make sense of our experience. And when we don't have a story, what happens? People who don't have a story about themselves that coheres. What happens to them? Sometimes they make it up, yes. And often they end up in therapy and institutions, because if you can't make sense of your life, you're suffering. So it's a quintessential human activity to try and make sense of all experience that we have. Now, others help and the culture help, and we'll get to that a little later, because language at the lower left, of course, is the thing that helps us make these kinds of quick judgment of what something is. We can have an impression and very quickly bundle it into, this is a skull, this is this is the other. And it works perfectly well. That's how we talk with each other. But how aware are we that this is all arbitrary and made up? That is the province and the experience of later stages.